After 20 years of building together through dust, deadlines, and damn good ideas, Pace and Adam invite you to join them for honest conversations about the home building world. Welcome to Build Connected, where experience meets insight, powered by Diamond Home Restoration.
Hello! Welcome back to another episode of
Build Connected.
Thank you, Pace. What episode are we on?
Episode 9, my friend.
Wow, we're really doing it. We're doing this podcast thing. We're having fun. I think people are getting some information out of it. Maybe they're getting a laugh. But thanks for sticking around and listening to our podcast.
Yeah, if you're listening to the podcast, you should be a subscriber. Every Monday, we're dropping a new episode, and you should be checking in. So if you find the least bit of amusement or you get some knowledge from it, subscribe, follow along with us. We would really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're sitting in your car. What else do you have to do,
Zero.
That's it. Let's go ahead and jump into it, shall we? I want to talk about broad understanding of making selections. So, everybody has lots of options out there. They want to make decisions on finishes, paint colors, plumbing fixtures, you name it. But what happens when you find something that you really like, but maybe it comes from Italy? Maybe it takes weeks to get. Maybe it takes months to get. What do? Do you just order it, hope it comes on time, hope that it's not broken or damaged? There are products out there that I understand people want to have certain things, and sometimes you got to just cross your fingers and hope that you get what you get and you get it in a timely way. But there are times in a job where I think, Pace, you're with me on this, where it makes sense to find something, let's call it off the shelf, something that's readily available. Let's do it. Let's give you an example. Let's say you're looking at a piece of tile and you love this tile. It does happen to come from Italy, but there's another tile that is almost identical. Maybe it's just a touch different, but you can get it in 3 days. Maybe it takes as long as 2 weeks. To me, that makes sense. Shop for something that you can get easily and in a quick time frame, because if you need more of it, you know where to get it, and you know you're going to get it quick. You're not going to have jobs getting held up by waiting and take that risk. So we're not talking about sacrificing the ultimate goal of the project or the ultimate design of the project. We don't want to sacrifice that. But if you have more than one option and they're both similar, it makes sense to find something that you can easily get. Any thoughts on that, Pace?
I mean, I totally agree. Let me just put a preface to this, which is what we're not talking about. So we're not talking about doors. We're not talking about windows. We're not talking about cabinets per se when Adam uses that timeline. Like in our market in 2025, doors, you're looking at, 4 to 8 weeks, something like that. In the heart of the pandemic, those numbers were much bigger. I remember waiting 5-6 months for cabinets. I remember waiting a year for appliances. We're not talking about those things. We're talking about a manufactured good that let's pick on tile. I think tile is the one that we spend the most time talking about with clients. And I understand like where the problem is. Like, you have a designer who finds a lovely product, that you're sitting in a design showroom, you're having your cappuccino, and there is this handmade mosaic from Italy. It's $85 a square foot. You gotta have it. But yeah, it takes 6 months to get. For the past 10 years, I've been really trying to persuade people to choose something different, choose something that you can get within that 2-week time frame that you mentioned. And here are the reasons why. It took multiple jobs over a decade to realize what can happen, right? Batch to batch with tile, there's subtle variations. Like what happens if you get one batch, let's say your order came and there were 3 different batches in the boxes. And one of them was just different enough that it wasn't okay with you. And you've got to get more. It was enough to stop some jobs in their tracks. You mentioned things getting broken. Same deal. Like, oh, we needed 10 boxes. We ordered 11 just to be safe. But 2 of the boxes showed up with broken tiles. So we had to order more. And again, you're back to that 6-month arrival time. And we want to be very mindful of the intent. We're not trying to change the vision, but we just want to remove obstacles where we can. So if there's an acceptable, like in most cases, there's a replacement, something in stock somewhere in your region, which no one would know the difference. Sometimes there's a minor difference, but what you take away, like in gain time, is worth that trade-off. So, I mean, to me, it's just try to find something that's in your region in a warehouse somewhere you can get it in a couple of weeks. And if it's outside of that, you need to be sure that the potential risk that you're taking on is worth it to you.
Wow, you really took over my whole segment there, Boston.
Sorry about that, but I mean, we talk about this often.
And I'll just cap it off with one more thing. We have found ourselves ordering stuff from Italy. It was a specific tile, and we had to order like triple the amount because of just what Pace was talking about: breakage, discoloration, with different dial lots. So you end up spending more money because you got to make sure you got enough. But anyway, enough on that topic. Just stick to something that you can get that's readily available, and you'll be happier in the long run.
Yeah, one more.
Oh.
Like
Here we
go. A fixture. And I'll pick on lighting fixtures because this has happened multiple times to us. Like some sort of a grand chandelier, right? That's handmade somewhere. It arrives and it got damaged in shipping. And that thing, took 6 months to build. Like you're back at day one as soon as that thing arrives broken. So
yeah, but you could always just hang a little piece of wire and a light bulb. I mean, tiles
you can certainly do
different.
that, but
I'm
that's
willing to wait for that
that's
chandelier.
not delivering the home with a big bow on it, is it?
I understand. I understand. Well, thanks for jumping in and taking over. Much appreciated.
Yeah,
But,
that's one that gets the blood boiling.
yeah.
I like that topic.
Now that you've talked for 5 minutes, let's jump into some other stuff that you want to talk about.
Wow, today, I again, 3rd week in a row, I've talked about getting into our pre-construction, but I'm not ready yet. Last week when we talked about why we're doing this,
the people want to hear it. I love it. I love our pre-construction. I love diving into it. I'm so passionate about it. I was looking forward to you talking about it.
Yeah, we're going to get there, but not today. Not
Okay.
today. Today we're going to talk about something much more difficult, and I'm struggling on how it's such a big problem and it's such a big issue nationally, and there are so many sides to it that I'm nervous, quite frankly, on how I'm going to tackle it. So I think I just want to paint the picture of what's happening. I don't want to give a solution because I don't know what the solution is. I have ways to chip away at it, but let's just start talking about the permitting process. And in particular, the San Francisco Chronicle on May 30th put out an article on this, just tracking the data on how long it takes to get a permit in San Francisco. And I'm gonna look down and I'm gonna read a couple of numbers because it's overwhelming, and I'm gonna do my best here.
Oh boy, put on your self-driving feature on your car if you're driving. We don't want you dozing off here.
I thought I'm not driving. I'm certainly
no. If you're listening to this, here come the numbers.
Here come the numbers. So I'm going to go back to 2022, 2023. This is in San Francisco, and this is the average time it took to get a building permit. So in the planning review process, it was averaging around 250 days. And for the building department, it was over 300 days. These are different tracks that the permit needs to go through. They're not totally separate. There can be some overlap, but I mean, that puts roughly 2 years on the time to receive a permit. The new numbers came in for 2025. The numbers are looking more like the building department is around 209 days. So, 60% improvement or something like that.
Oh, here comes the math. He was a mathematician, folks, in case no one knew that.
So shaving roughly 100 days off the building department number. And then planning was roughly halved. So it was averaging around 133 days. This doesn't include a number of things. It doesn't include the pre-application process, which is, which is funny in itself. That's okay, we got our plan set together, we submit. They say that typically takes 30 days just to make sure you filled everything out and you've got all the right attachments and whatever. And so I'm just kind of painting the picture of how can the system be that it's taking 2 years to get a permit? How do you plan if you're a builder, if you're a designer? How do you plan your life around that timeline? If you're a homeowner and you're purchasing a house and you know that the house needs work, how do you carry 2 mortgages for 2 years to make the house what it needs to be to move into? I think the answer is you can't. And so I think everybody agrees that there has to be a change. And there have been multiple pro-housing bills in California presented in the last 5 years. But it hasn't led to building more houses. And the reason why is again, multifold. But the answer can't be in more regulation. I just finished reading this book called Abundance. Abundance was written by Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson, and it's about 4 problems in America. One of them is the building world. It's also about the medical world, science funding, and energy. There's a relationship there, a shared set of problems. But there's a great quote towards the end of the book where he's talking about, solutions to how we get out of this sort of malaise. We want to build affordable housing, but our regulation is in the way. We want to build green energy, but our regulation is in the way. And the quote that he uses is, stopping individuals or developers from building places for people to live on land they own should require unusual cause. And there is so much in that. I mean, it's just this idea that if you own a place and you want to do a remodel, or you own a piece of land and you want to build a property on it, it should be, unless you should be able to do what you want, right? There should be limitations on that, right? Let's say that your neighborhood is no more than 2 stories. Okay, if you're not building less than 2 stories, then it should be a green light, right? It ties into another idea that I've seen it take shape over my career, right? It used to be you could put together a relatively basic set of plans indicating what the project would be. But today, your plan set is more precious than the actual construction of the project. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples of something that we just went through this year. 2 projects, relatively small, and they're both remodels. And they're not adding to the footprint of the property. They both took 6 months in permitting. And that's a problem.
Pace is not saying I'm not for all of these codes, because you are. You're about being code compliant and meeting these codes. It's just about the regulation in terms of going through each one of these individual persons that has to go through your sets of plans, instead of just coming up with a prescriptive method for the work that's being done.
Yeah, I'm not referring to building code, right? What I'm referring to is requirements to get a permit. Let me be specific. So I mentioned a project that we're on right now, right? And there was an addition to the house, but if you look down from the sky, the addition is underneath the existing roof. So the footprint of the house didn't get bigger. The point or the problem here is on this permit that I said took 6 months, the permit had to cross 32 people's desks. On average, it was at each desk for 10 days. Some of them, it would sat on their desk for 30 days. That's where, when I talk about regulation, I'm talking about the maze or the obstacle course, right, that a permit needs to travel through, and why so many people have to say yes.
The point here, Pace, is that there is a problem with this process, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk more about this, but let's move on into something interesting on a project. You've kind of dove a little bit into something that's happening now. Let me dive in a little deeper. Now I get to be the bad guy and poo-poo something, because you're usually the guy poo-pooing things. We have a project right now where planning and permitting process required us to have an additional sheet on our plans to show exactly where our porta potty is going to go, where our wood piles are going to go, where we're going to put all of our tools. It's ridiculous. I'm just going to say it. It's ridiculous. Who cares? I mean, we're not going to put this stuff in the street, and you wouldn't be allowed to do that. So if you're going to do that and stipulate where those things need to go, they should be stipulating where we're going to put all of the spoils. And by that, I mean, on this particular project we're on, we have, I don't know, Pace, what do we have, 20 piers going in?
Yeah, almost 30.
30 piers. We're drilling 10 to 12 feet down into bedrock. We've got 5 feet of dirt, and then we hit bedrock, but there's 2 yards of dirt coming out of each hole. Maybe specify where that dirt's going to go. And I'll tell you what, if we have the ability to leave it on site and not have to haul it out of there, it's going to be a lot of savings for the homeowner. And, you know, we've talked about concrete, and what is it that they specify in the plans for concrete?
Low carbon.
Low carbon. And why would they specify low carbon?
Better for the environment.
There you go. Is it better for the environment to take that dirt, load it into a truck, drive your truck and haul it off to a site and have some big rig spread that dirt around and run it through a machine or what have you? No, that doesn't make sense. Let's be conscientious of what we're doing to the environment, and let's leave that dirt on site if we can. For example, this job that we're on, we have a hillside in the backyard. We want to build a small little 2-foot retaining wall, and that'll allow us to put the dirt up against the retaining wall and actually tier the backyard a little bit and make it more usable. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. This is the kind of stuff the building department, planning department should be talking about. Not where we're going to put our toilet, not where we're going to put our tools, but talk about stuff like that. You're going to pull all this dirt out of the ground. Where are you going to put it? That's it. I mean, sorry, now I'm getting angry. I'm not Pace. I'm Adam.
No, you're the good guy for sure. You know, I went off the rails on my topic, right? Really, what I was just trying to say is this needs to get better. Like, if we want better housing, more housing, there needs to be a solution to the process. So that's what I was trying to say. And I was just trying to put some numbers to it so you can see how bad it is here. And you can guess from those numbers how difficult it is to plan running a business and getting people in their homes. Next time I'll do a better job and at being more succinct and more calm. But that's next time, not this time.
You did great. You did great. You know, it's also important to point out, like, this is our area of work. We're talking about Northern California, Marin County, San Francisco area. We realize jurisdictions are different wherever you might be. You know, again, this podcast is a couple of things for us, right? It's a way to provide information. Maybe it's a bit of a way for us to vent, like we maybe just did, shed some light on some issues. And maybe there's someone out there listening to this that can help make a difference. But in any case, thanks for joining us today. I think that wraps up our show. We hope you'll tune in next time. This is Build Connected. I'm Adam.
And I'm Pace.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thanks for joining us on Build Connected. For more stories, insights, and ideas, visit diamondhomerestoration.com or find us on Instagram and LinkedIn. We'll be back next week. We hope you will too.